people are making the decision as to what lawyer to hire before they ever spoken to the lawyer, right? Because you think about it in the old days. So again, let's go back 43 years. If you wanted to meet lawyers, you had to get an appointment, go to an office, meet lawyers, have a conversation with them. Today, you can go on the internet, go on Mr. Google and Mr. YouTube, right? And you can meet dozens of lawyers in a couple hours.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Ben Glass, founder and CEO of BenGlassLaw. How you doing today, Ben?
It's awesome, Andrew. Before we went live, it's spring break, so a bunch of the team here is out with their kiddos at cities far away from us, and so it's a little bit light in terms of number of bodies running around, but it's all good.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Yeah. Please tell us a bit about yourself and about BenGlassLaw.
Yeah, so I've been practicing for probably 43 years. I'm a 100% contingent fee attorney. My son and I, Brian, we own the firm here in Northern Virginia, so we're right outside of Washington, D.C. Personal injury practice in Virginia, but really concentrated in Northern Virginia. And then a long-term disability insurance practice that really is out of Fairfax, but we're in cities and states across the country in federal courts. And so that's an interesting niche, right, that we can talk about there. We've got about 20 people under roof. We've got, I think now 5 or 6 in the Philippines that work for us full time. And we, I think most importantly is Brian and I, we're entrepreneurs first. Like, we're good lawyers, but we are entrepreneurs first. We like playing the game of business and the game of life, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do it around the structure of a law firm, a successful law firm. Yeah.
Now, you've been practicing for 43 years. When did BenGlassLaw, when did you found the company?
I think we're approaching, 1995. So we're coming on 30 years here. So I had a very traditional law school to first job, worked 12 years doing a variety of insurance defense work and some plaintiffs work. My family was growing. I was coaching 3 soccer teams, and I thought to myself, as many young lawyers do, how hard could it be to start a law firm? I mean, I'm a pretty good lawyer, right, getting good results, and so let's be closer to home. Let's go start a law firm, and then of course I quickly found out I really didn't know a whole lot about the business of law, and so there was a lot of learning to be done.
Now, you're exclusively in personal injury and disability law?
That's right. We don't know anything about anything else. Our Rolodex is big. Our Rolodex is huge. And so, we have a really strong presence here in Northern Virginia. I grew up here. Obviously, Brian grew up here. So we have a huge network. And we tell people, call us first. We will guide you to finding the right lawyer if what you need is lawyer, right? People don't know what they need and don't need. So we have a strong presence here. But yeah, we've learned to live in our lane and stay in our lane.
Hey, but that means you're experts in your field. If you go to a law firm and there are 27 different types of law on the wall, there has to be some watering down of the skill set to be able to cover that broad a breadth of statutes. So
at least a watering down of the brand, right? And so, we do believe that as we're recording this in 2025, right, is that people are looking for experts, whether you're looking for a tax person, someone to help grow your business, someone to help with your healthcare. We're looking for experts. We're beyond the time of the generalist for most parts of America. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what are the most common problems you're solving for your clients?
Well, all of our clients are sick or injured, right? And so they, it is their first entree into the legal space for most of them. And we forget that as lawyers, we live this every single day, but we forget that someone has been thrust into our world, in our case, either because some other driver, was careless, or because an insurance company has denied a long-term disability claim. And so it's an interesting point to make because they weren't planning this yesterday, right? They didn't plan to have an accident. Boom. Now they're in a space where they may or may not need a lawyer. How are you going to show up? How is the law firm going to show up? How do we get into their world? Over 85% of our money, Andrew, comes because another human being mentioned our name. So that journey, that client journey for us, most of the time begins with a person who knows us, who says, call these guys, you can trust them.
That means trust day one is paramount in what you do. That's an important way to drive business. I have a delicate question because you mentioned that a lot of the scenarios people come to you because an insurance company has declined their long-term claim. As a consumer, there's this perception that insurance companies make a living by having a room full of intimidating, high-priced lawyers to delay, and sort of milk clients to the point where they can't even afford to continue the case. But you work on a contingency basis. What's that scenario look like for a lawyer like you when you are up against a big insurance company and their room full of suits?
Well, when you're a young lawyer, that can be an intimidating prospect because literally on the other side of these disability cases are some of the largest law firms in America. However, that the field is we believe is a pretty level playing field. And we're in front of federal judges who don't care whether you're from a big law firm or us, like a small 20-person law firm. And when you're an expert at what you do, you become less intimidated by size. All right. Same thing happens, on the automobile side. There's really good lawyers on the other side. I think here's what we know. The insurance company treats their own lawyers pretty poorly, underpays them, limits their bills, gives them too much work to do any human being could do. And so that's our advantage, right? We have far fewer cases than most insurance defense lawyers. We can actually know our clients, focus on the case, build value into the case if there's value to be gotten. And so that is what I refer to as, we're playing the game of business. We're really good at that. We're really good at enhancing the value of a case, figuring out what it is the client really wants. Because, Andrew, if you listen to just all the lawyer ads, like, oh, we can get you the most money ever. Like, again, you're thrust into our world. You've got bills to pay. You're now going to physical therapy. You're getting treatment. A lot of times people just want someone to take the burden of all of this paperwork and talking to insurance companies off of them. I mean, they're interested in getting their bills paid, but they're not all going like jackpot justice. We're going to become millionaires. They're just not. So it's a fun place for us to play in.
Well, fun, but you are meeting people sometimes at the worst point in their lives, and you're providing an island in a storm, as it were, a port in a storm. I'm assuming that your 43 years of expertise and the fact that your firm is lean and can be personable and give people the sort of attention they need is the main differentiator. Anything else that makes you stand out from your competitors?
100%. That's right. So the main differentiator, and this is a great message for anyone running any small business, doesn't have to be law, is that our level of customer service is unbeaten and unbeatable. Like, when you are a client here, you are not going to have the problems you have at many law firms. Oh, they don't call me back. They don't keep me advised of what's going on. We're very, very proactive there. And many, if not most of the conversations that Brian and I have with clients are about life coaching. You've had this bad thing happen to you, Andrew. We're going to fix the legal. Like, we're good at that. We're going to deal with the legal. What's next for you? Again, a lot of my clients, disability clients, they can't do what they were born to do. Surgeons, lawyers, CEOs, but they're not old. They're gonna want to do something in the future. And so a lot of my conversations with high performing A players is, all right, now how do we rechannel your education, your experience into something productive? Because you don't want to be relying on an insurance company to send you a check every month. Like there's risk in that. So what are we going to do? Is that what, and also make it fun. So yes, low point of their lives, but yes, they're getting more than a lawyer when they come our clients.
It's refreshing to hear somebody has that approach. We all think of lawyers as purely transactional, right? It's all about
Yes.
dollar sign. It's all about billable hours. It's all about, ooh, what is my 30% going to look like at the end of this tunnel? That kind of thing. So, hey, you put humans first, and I always think that business thrives because of that human respect and connection. So I appreciate your approach.
Well, like 85% of our money comes because a human being told a story, because they're not telling the story necessarily of how good a lawyer we were, or how much money they got. They're telling the story about the experience they had in working with us from day one through the end, even after the case is over. Like you're still part of the family, right? You're still getting our print newsletter and we're staying in contact. So yeah, it's win-win. Like it's win for the client and it's win for us, because every time we get a referral, that means we didn't have to go out and buy a billboard or a TV ad or a digital billboard or some space on the internet. We spend actually very little money on pure advertising, and we spend a lot of time, energy, and money, Andrew, on developing relationships with people who know us, like us, trust us, and can refer cases to us.
I'm very glad to hear that that's still a fruitful approach because, again, people like to be treated like human beings at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, right? And you're encountering people who have not been treated that way. They've been treated as numbers on a spreadsheet that didn't go into their favor. So it's got to be incredibly refreshing from the get-go for them.
Yeah, or they've been treated worse because our disability clients have been told by the insurance company, you and your doctors are either stupid as heck or you're liars, and we don't believe it. And our doctors who just read your medical records and never laid our eyes on you, they know better. And so there's an emotional component there of not having your story believed, and oftentimes it's because your story hasn't been told correctly, and that's what we're good at. We're great at helping people tell their stories to skeptical insurance companies.
Excellent. All right, switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about the pandemic. Opportunities, obstacles. What was it like sustaining your business through the pandemic?
It was a huge opportunity, right? We're a very positive, optimistic law firm. And so one of the things we saw during the pandemic was there weren't as many cars crashing into each other. So there were not new claims being opened, but all the old claims got resolved faster, right? So there was that. The other thing is, as you know, Andrew, the legal profession is dinosauric, right? If that's a word. There are a bunch of dinosaurs when it comes to technology and innovation. And the pandemic told us, oh no, actually, there's a whole lot of things we can do over Zoom, including court hearings or telephone. Gee, it's really made a lot of our work more efficient. So, we focus on better technology and stuff. So the pandemic was hard, of course, right? I'll tell you one of the things we did, and this is important again, if you're running a small biz, is Brian and I said to our team, we don't know what the rules are or what they should be, because where do people want to work, right? At home, whatever. We have a lot of space here. So we said, look, you got to tell us, like, how can we serve to our team? We said, how can we serve you best? Some of you have childcare needs. Tell us what your solution would be like. How can we do this? For some people, coming into the office was where they wanted to come work. Again, we had space. It was safe. And the homes were crowded with kids and spouses, right? Going to school and doing work from home. So I think that the pandemic, the legal profession now has taken a lot of learning from the pandemic, and it is better for the client now because we learned to be more comfortable with technology. Like we were always there, but many firms, as you can imagine, like didn't even have laptops. It was unbelievable. Like, how are we going to work from home? We don't even have laptops. Are you crazy? So yeah, it was a time we learned, and now, we just exploded since then.
Hey, I imagine that if you're an injured person, going to and from lawyers' offices is a hardship in and of itself. So if you can meet remotely, that's got to be a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, you miss a little bit of the human touch, but there's things that, we upped our how can we make the client experience game as good as it can be. even if we can't see you in person, right? So we're really big on swag, gift boxes, shock and awe boxes, cheering you up. And my team is very alert. Andrew, if you're a client here and you mentioned a birthday, a celebration, an anniversary or something, like my team is tuned in to note that and do something about it. Again, this is why our client experience is why we have so many great reviews. It's not because we're good lawyers, although we are, right? But it's because the experience they have in dealing with something hard, we make it easier for them.
Excellent. All right. Well, put on your marketing hat for a second. What role has content played in the growth of your business? You talk about helping your clients tell their story in a meaningful and effective way. How are you telling your story that way?
Content is critical because here's what we believe anyway, is that people are making the decision as to what lawyer to hire before they ever spoken to the lawyer, right? Because you think about it in the old days. So again, let's go back 43 years. If you wanted to meet lawyers, you had to get an appointment, go to an office, meet lawyers, have a conversation with them. Today, if you're accident yesterday, today you can go on the internet, go on Mr. Google and Mr. YouTube, right? And you can meet dozens of lawyers in a couple hours. You can go watch their videos, which is a form of content. You can go read their website, which is a form of content. You can go download their newsletters. You can today, we have social media profiles. Why does lawyers have social media profiles? It's not to run more ads. It's to just show people that we're normal human beings too, right? So a lot of our social media is not about the law. It's about, for me, refereeing and CrossFit and athletics and stuff like that. So we focus a lot on trying to enter the conversation that's in the potential client's mind, answering their questions, showing them a path through everything from, blog writing, web space writing. Certainly we have separate YouTube channels now for each of our two verticals. We print newsletter, that's content. I'm the old guy, like print newsletter, mail it, because there's less mail in the mailbox now. And so you will actually show up, and print mail has almost a 100% open rate unless you're deadly boring. Email is content. And I argue with the youngins in my marketing department. Like they all want to email something. Like, have you seen like open rates for email recently? Do you see the pass along factor, which is about 0? So content, for years and years, Andrew, we were taught content is king. I think, and there were eras, as you know, where lawyers were doing nothing but spilling out content, content. Now I think we're more thoughtful about what are we going to say in writing or in video? Why are we saying it? How do we get people to pay attention to it? How do we not waste their time? But the most challenging thing is, how do we be interesting? Because so many lawyers are still standing in front of law books talking about statute 384 of the code. Like that's the most stupid, boring thing in the world.
The goal is certainly not to be deadly boring. I don't even
Right.
I don't like those words put together. But we preach intentionality. If you're going to go to the time, effort, and expense of crafting content, you got to reach people where they are, and you got to be interesting. But I hear you. It's interesting that the mailbox has gotten lighter and lighter. I mean, in our house, I happen to have a high school senior, so it's been 80% colleges courting her for the last 9 months. But
Yes.
the general volume of spam mail has dropped like a stone. So and I'm guessing people really do see your newsletter and go, "Oh, this is not spam."
Well, right. But there's a whole art to writing a print newsletter. Ours is 8-page full color. It's got contributions from all of our team, and it's probably 15% legal stuff and 85% life lessons stuff and recipes. And you would think, well, why is recipes in a lawyer's newsletter? Well, because people complain when the recipe doesn't show up that month. And so most lawyers, they may balk at this. This is hard work. We don't really know. The reality is the digital space is so crowded. And now with all this venture capital money, private equity money in it, so buying out, so as you know, the cost of advertising on the internet is going up at an extraordinary rate. So how can you beat that or control that? Well, it is by content. It is by being interesting. It is by, Andrew, it's by studying people who other people follow, like even if they're not in law. Like, why does a particular quote influencer even have so many people paying attention to them? Well, that's worth study. And lawyers are often shy to study outside of legal, right? Because we think we're special, but we're really not. We're just a business. We're just human beings. You know, so it's multifactorial, if that's a big word. But it's critical, especially if you don't want to or cannot compete with the firms that are spending upwards of $100 million a year on advertising.
Hey, the common thread in all of your answers about the success of you and your firm is treating people like human beings, not like numbers on a spreadsheet or someone that fits into a cookie cutter statute that you're just going to read off in court and try to get enforced. Hey, it's an admirable approach. It's been working for you for 4 decades plus. And there's a lot to be taken from that, because there's lots of businesses we all deal with that don't treat us like human beings or numbers on a spreadsheet.
This is it, right? Because the bar is not high on customer service. It just isn't. If you think about, the last 10 businesses you may have dealt with, if someone is good, you'll remember them. It could be the cable company. It could be the phone company, because there's some of those companies that do this very well. It could be the automobile dealership or repair shop that you use. It's like, you can't judge whether one auto repair shop is better than the other, but you certainly can judge how you are treated and how you feel when you are there and after the sale is made. And that's what you're going to remember. And that's what you're going to tell your friends, right? Because if you're like me, Andrew, like you open the hood, I don't know, a carburetor from a battery, hardly, right? But I know that there's a guy that I trust. And if I have an issue, I'm like, fix it. And I don't even ask like the price, because I trust him, because my experience has been good with this particular dealer or repair shop. My experience has been good over the years.
It's a good thing, because it's very unlikely that there's a carburetor under your hood in 2025.
Thank you for letting me know. I'm unsure to not ask about that. Yes.
All right, let's look at 2026. Look a year from now. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
That's a great question. Just over a year ago, I had triple bypass surgery, and that my public service announcement is I had 0 symptoms. So for those who are listening, coronary artery calcium screen saved my life. I was doing CrossFit. I was refereeing with no symptoms. So I am celebrating health. I am back full time to refereeing and doing CrossFit and all that stuff. And so I want to continue to be able to celebrate that. The law firm continues to grow. We are the biggest player in the long-term disability space in the Mid-Atlantic region. And we can show that objectively, so I can say it safely without violating the advertising rules. I can show that by federal court filings. And as I turned 67 in February, so I'm looking at kind of a shortened timeline to when I can be of counsel and have a great team who I may coach from time to time, but who knows how to do the things we've talked about on this call. And so that's what we work a lot on. So we run the firm on EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, the book Traction and Get a Grip. If your listeners haven't been introduced to that, are great resources. So we run everything like a business. And the reason we exist, no surprise to you, Andrew, is we want to build a business where people would thrive. Like, that's our primary. Owners thrive, team thrives. That way, if A and B are both true, customer will have a great experience. And so we're always working on that, because every time you grow your business, Andrew, you get into a space where you've never played before, right? So I mentioned we have remote workers in the Philippines and also in the United States. Okay, 5 years ago, like, that wasn't even on anybody's playbook, right? So you learn how do you manage, how do you hold accountable. You're not only your in-house team, but folks who are on the other side of the world. And for me, that's interesting. So growth. You're in a space where you need to learn more. So we have coaches. We invest a lot of money in coaching, both individually for our leadership team and corporately for the law firm. So that's a big investment for us. How do we learn to be better leaders of a bigger, more robust organization? And that will continue to excite me until the day that I don't go into any office anymore, whatever. And I'll just be at the gym and maybe on a soccer field, even at that stage. That's what we're working on. So we set our goals in 3, 5, and 10-year horizons, and we work diligently to run this place like a business, with the goal of, if you are affiliated, the owner or a team member or a client, your life will be better because of that experience.
Hey, lifelong learning is key to any career path, or, just happiness as a human being, the more you know, the more you know you don't know kind of approach. And I don't see you as a person who's going to gather moss in quote unquote retirement.
No, it's just like, no, you're exactly right. Exactly right. So we're in that, my wife and I are in that stage of, what will that look like? What do we want to do? That requires some reflection. It requires carving out quiet time to just think about this. We have 7 going on 9 in the next couple of months, grandkids. And so that's an awesome place to be also. And we've got 9 children. So your grandkids multiply faster than your own kids did. So it's a lot of, we believe, exciting times. We want to stay healthy. We're financially good. It's like, all right, now what do we want to do? All right, let's carve out some time and think about that.
Excellent. Hey, and you're keeping yourself in the kind of shape to actually do those things when you get the chance to do them.
Try to. Yeah.
Fabulous.
That gets harder every day, by the way. Running with 17-year-olds on soccer fields is hard.
Hey, you just turned 67. I just turned 57. Things hurt when I get up. So I applaud your trips to the gym. Go an extra time for me, would you? Please tell us, what's your URL? Where can people find BenGlassLaw? And what social media outlets are you using as well?
Well, exactly there. So BenGlassLaw.com. If you go there, if you want to just Google BenGlass referee, you'll see a bunch of other, I'm an advocate of good sportsmanship, and I'm an exposer of bad parenting. So you'll see our YouTube videos on bad sports parents. I'm on TikTok. I spend a lot of time in my 3 are LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok. And again, I actually chronicled my entire journey in my cardiac surgery, from when I knew I had to have the surgery, through getting back on the field and getting back to CrossFit in about, I think, 100 days or so. Like, it was fastest recovery ever. So if you ever want to go see that, you can go on TikTok and scroll backwards. Renegade Lawyer on TikTok. So yeah, I write books. I've written a whole bunch of books, both for the practices, for lawyer marketing, where I'm known somewhat, and then just sort of life inspirational books. Yeah.
Ben Glass, thank you so much for spending time with us on Business Ninjas today. All the best to you and your growing brood. Continued success at BenGlassLaw, and continued health, and enjoy whatever that brass ring that you're grabbing in the next few years looks like.
It's fun, man. Thanks for having me on today, Andrew.
My pleasure. Be well.